Welcome to Calculus. Today we are going to explore a fascinating topic known as singular points. Imagine you are driving along a smooth, winding mountain highway. Most of the time the road is predictable and you know exactly where you are going. But what happens when you reach a strange intersection where the road loops over itself or hits a sharp dead end? In mathematics, curves have these unusual spots too, and understanding them is crucial for mapping out where the normal rules of calculus break down. Let us dive in. Now that we have our highway analogy, let us look at what this means mathematically. Why do we care about these strange spots? Because at a regular point, a curve has one clear direction. But at a singular point, if someone asks which way is the curve going, you cannot give a single answer. Multiple directions might be happening at once, or the path might abruptly stop and reverse. These are the specific locations where a mathematical curve loses its smooth, single direction nature. Identifying them is like mapping out the dangerous intersections on a mountain road. Building on that intuition, let us define this rigorously. In standard calculus, we find the slope of a curve using derivatives, which give us the exact steepness of the tangent line. But at a singular point, this standard rule completely breaks down because there is no single well-defined tangent line. The mathematical compass spins wildly. This happens specifically when the partial derivatives of the function with respect to both the x and y variables vanish to zero at the exact same time. When both rates of change stop, the curve stops moving in a clear direction. Before we can find these points, we need to set up our equation properly. We do this by writing the curve implicitly. Instead of writing y equals some math involving x, we move every single term to one side of the equal sign, leaving exactly zero on the other side. The capital F represents this entire combined mathematical expression containing both our x and y variables. If x or y changes, the value of f changes. Setting it to zero gives us the specific path of the curve we want to analyze. Now that our equation is set to zero, we apply the first condition for finding a singular point. We take the partial derivative of the entire expression f with respect to x. This means we find the rate of change horizontally, treating any y in the equation as if it were just a constant number, like 5 or 10. We set this result to zero. But remember, for a point to be truly singular, the partial derivative with respect to y must also be zero at the exact same time. Both horizontal and vertical rates of change must vanish together. Once we have located a singular point using the first derivatives, we need to know what shape it takes. This formula is our mathematical sorting hat called the discriminant, denoted by capital D. It looks at the second derivatives, which are the rates of the rates of change. By plugging our coordinates into this formula, we get a specific test score. If D is greater than 0, the curve crosses itself, forming a node. If D equals 0, it forms a sharp cusp. And if D is less than 0, it is an isolated, disconnected point. Before we calculate anything, let us see exactly what these discriminant scores look like visually. On the left, you see a node where D is greater than 0. Notice how the curve has two distinct paths crossing directly through the red dot at the center, like an X. In the middle is the cusp, where D equals 0. Here the path forces you to stop completely at the sharp tip and turn around. Finally, on the right, we have the isolated point for D less than 0, where a single dot is entirely stranded from the rest of the curve. Now that we have our visual intuition, let us find and classify a singular point with a concrete example. We are given the curve y squared equals x squared times x plus 1. Our first step is to move everything to the left side to create our master function f set equal to 0. Next, we take the partial derivative with respect to x, treating y as a constant, which gives us negative 3x squared minus 2x. Setting this to 0 and factoring out a negative x reveals that x can be either 0 or negative 2/3. Continuing with our example, we must also find where the partial derivative with respect to y is 0. Taking the derivative of our function f with respect to y gives us simply 2y. Setting 2y to 0 means y must be 0. For a point to be singular, both conditions must be met simultaneously. The only pair that works for both is x equals 0 and y equals 0. So our singular point is at the origin. To classify it, we then calculate our 3 second partial derivatives, differentiating our previous results one more time. With our second derivatives ready, we can now determine the shape of our curve at the origin. We plug our values into the discriminant formula. The mixed derivative is 0. The second derivative with respect to x evaluated at 0 becomes negative 2, and the second derivative with respect to y is 2. Multiplying these out, we get 0 minus negative 4, which simplifies to a positive 4. Because our discriminant is strictly greater than 0, our mathematical test confirms that the singular point at the origin is a node, meaning the curve crosses over itself. Let us solidify this process by looking at a different curve, given by the equation y squared equals x cubed. We want to find its singular point and determine its shape. We follow the exact same strategy. First, we move the x cubed term to the left side to create our standard function f equal to 0. Then, we take the partial derivative with respect to x, which is negative 3x squared, and set it to 0, giving us x equals 0. Doing the same for y gives us 2y equals 0, meaning y is also 0. Just like our previous example, combining these results tells us that our singular point is located exactly at the origin, 0, 0. Now we move to the classification step. We find the second partial derivative with respect to x by differentiating negative 3x squared again, yielding negative 6x. Differentiating 2y again gives us the constant 2 for our y second derivative. And because there are no mixed terms, our mixed partial derivative is simply 0. We are now ready to test these values. For our final step, we substitute our second derivatives and the x-coordinate of our singular point into the discriminant formula. The first term is 0 squared. Inside the brackets, negative 6 times 0 is just 0. So we are left with 0 minus 0 times 2, which simplifies perfectly to exactly 0. According to our classification rules, a discriminant of exactly 0 means the singular point is a cusp. If you were to graph this, you would see the curve come to a sharp bird's beak point directly at the origin before reversing. Now that we have mastered finding and classifying these points, you might wonder why they matter in the real world. In physics and engineering, singular points almost always represent critical states or points of catastrophic failure. For example, in robotics, a singular point is a physical position where a robot arm gets stuck and loses a degree of freedom, potentially breaking the machine if forced. In optics, they explain how light rays focus to create intensely bright, burning spots called caustics. Identifying these points beforehand prevents engineers from designing systems that behave unpredictably. To summarize our journey today, singular points are those special, unusual locations where a mathematical curve loses its smooth nature, often crossing itself or forming a sharp tip. We locate them by finding exactly where the first partial derivatives vanish simultaneously. Then, by checking the second derivatives using the discriminant formula, we can classify these strange spots as nodes, cusps, or isolated points. You have now covered the full topic, giving you the mathematical tools to predict exactly where models and real-world systems will behave in extreme ways. Great work!